Hi everyone. So I want to make a video that goes through the solutions to our first quiz of the school year. So this quiz is Module 1 and it's covering lessons 1 through 5. This is an extra resource for you and your student to prepare for the first math quiz. This has 4 questions on it, and if your student is able to do this all 4 questions with ease, and they'll be ready to go for their first quiz. So let's get started with number 1. It says a kitchen cabinet has 9 plates, 4 cups, 6 bowls, and 1 mug. I know it says to match each description with its ratio. I don't have that. I'm going to write in. I should change my directions. We are going to write each description for the ratio, and we don't actually have answer choices. So we're just going to write the ratio based off of what the sentence describes. So part 1 says the ratio of plates to bowls. We can pull all of our information from the numbers that are underlined above. How many plates are there? There are 9 plates. We use the colon for the word 2. And how many bowls? There are 6. The next part asks us the ratio of the total number of items, to the plates. Well, to find a total, we need to add up everything. So that would be 9 plus 4 plus 6 plus 1. Doing all this adding, I'm going to kind of group together things I can. I like to go left to right. So 9 plus 4 is 13 plus 6 plus 1. 13 plus 6 is 19 plus 1 is 20. So I have 20 items compared to how many plates? Well, there's 9 plates. The next part of our question asks for the ratio of mugs to plates. Well, there's only 1 mug, and there are 9 plates. Our last part of this question asks for the ratio of the bowls to the total number of cups and bowls. Okay, well, let me see how many bowls there are. There are 6 bowls, and I'm pulling this from the first sentence. And to find a total, I have to add. So I'm adding all the cups, which is 4, plus bowls, which is 6. And that's 10. So the last part of my ratio is a 10. Moving on to question 2. This says, Julie has 10 necklaces, 5 bracelets, and 3 rings. Which of the following are correct? We're going to choose all that apply. This is a very similar question to something that the students might see on CMAS in the spring, where you might have to choose multiple answers. So I'm going to go through each potential answer and decide if it's actually going to work or not. Part A says the ratio of the number of necklaces, so the number of necklaces is 10, to the number of bracelets, which is 5. And they're saying in this problem it should be 2 to 1. So this is an example of, are these equivalent? Well, to prove if these 2 ratios are equivalent, I have to prove if I can multiply by the same number. I like to tell the students, start with your small number, get to your big number. So I'm going to try to prove that I have to multiply both parts of my ratio by the same thing. So 1 times something is 5. Well, 1 times 5 is 5. Let me see if that works on the other side. 2 times something is 10. Well, 2 times 5 is 10. And because I multiply both sides by the same number, that proves that these are equivalent ratios and that this part A is an answer choice. Part B says the ratio of the number of bracelets, so the number of bracelets was 5, to the number of rings. Well, there's 3 rings. Order matters. So because this sentence went bracelets first, then rings, the ratio should be 5 to 3, not 3 to 5. So part B is not an answer choice. Part C, the ratio of the number of bracelets, okay, so bracelets was 5, to the total number of bracelets and rings. Well, to find a total, we add. There are 10 necklaces plus 3 rings equals 13. So the ratio I came up with was 5 to 13, and that's what answer choice C says, 5 to 13. That matches. So C is an answer choice. Part D, the ratio of the number of necklaces, so that's 10, to the number of rings. Well, from what I'm looking here on question 2, there's only 3 rings. But D says there should be 5, and that is incorrect. So that cannot be an answer choice. Part E and F are tape diagrams. So it's a visual of the ratio. So E, it's saying we have the number of rings, and I'm going to count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this picture is saying I have 6 rings to the total jewelry items. Well, the total jewelry items would be adding up everything. And if I add up 10 plus 5 plus 3, that gets me 18. And this is only showing 1 block. So my ratio should have shown a 6 to 18, not 6 to 1. So E is not an answer choice. F, the number of rings. So I'm just going to count my blocks. 1, 2, 3. And does that match up? Yep, I have 3 rings up at the original directions compared to the number of bracelets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me see if that matches. Are there 5 bracelets originally in the problem? Yep. So F is another answer choice. We actually have 3 answers on this question. Part B of this question, we have to circle which sentence describes this ratio. So that means we need to figure out where do these numbers come from in the original problem. Part A, this first part where it says the ratio 5 to 10 represents, we're going to pick out of the A box. Then the second sentence where it says the ratio 5 to 8 represents, we're going to pick one sentence out of the B box. So what I'm going to do is look at 5 and 10, and I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to look at what are those numbers? Where did 5 come from? Well, if I look back at question 2, I see 5, well, that's bracelets, and 10 are necklaces. So I'm going to add that on here, that we have bracelets is actually 5, and 10 was actually our necklaces. So I'm going to read in these answer boxes which option talks about 5 bracelets compared to the 10 necklaces. The first sentence says the number of bracelets to rings. Well, no, there weren't 10 rings, so that can't be a choice. The second sentence says the ratio of the number of bracelets to the number of necklaces. That's what I figured out. So that's actually our sentence that's correct for this one. But I'll be clear and make sure to rule out the third option. It says the ratio of necklaces to bracelets. Well, that's backwards because order matters in ratios. Necklaces, well, there's 10 of them to 5. So this is not the ratio we have. Let's look at the ratio of 5 to 8. Well, where did I find 5? 5 was our bracelets in the problem. What's tricky is, what is 8 in the problem? So let me scroll back up. Let me figure out how I could get to the number 8 using the 3 numbers 10, 5, and 3. Well, if I added 10 and 5, that's 15, so that didn't work. I could add 10 and 3, and that's 13, and that doesn't work. But if I add 5 and 3, which are bracelets and rings, that gets me 8. So 8 is actually a total of bracelets and rings. So I'm going to look for a sentence that describes that. Reading the first one says, the ratio of the total number of bracelets and rings to bracelets. Well, that's backwards because order matters with ratios, so that can't work. The second sentence is the ratio of the number of bracelets, that's good, to the number of necklaces and rings. Well, that doesn't work because 8's the bracelets and rings total. And by process of elimination, it has to be this last one, but reading it, I'll be sure. The number of bracelets, yep, that goes first in my ratio. To the total number of bracelets and rings, yep, that's what I came up with too. So that last sentence is my answer. Moving on to question 3. It says, Mr. Perez can make 1 batch of a snack mix by mixing 4 cups of peanuts and 3 cups of pretzels. He makes 2 batches of a snack mix. How many cups of pretzels does Mr. Perez use? So on any question, the first step what needs to be is write the ratio. The first ratio in the problem has to be the snack mix of peanuts to pretzels. So that would be 4 to 3. Now, if it helps you to label peanuts and pretzels above your numbers, you could absolutely do that to help keep the numbers straight. You could draw a tape diagram. Many ways to do this. But if we're making 2 batches, I am doubling this ratio. Now, another way to think about doubling is multiply by 2. So if I multiply by 2, this is me doubling my batch or bowl of snack mix. So this will now give me a new ratio of 8 peanuts to 6 pretzels. And the question's asking for how many pretzels are there? Well, I just figured that out. That is 6. So it should be C. Part 4 says the ratio of the number of crayons to the number of pencils in Leo's desk is 7 to 5. Then it says Leo has 28 crayons in his desk. And part A asks for how many pencils are in his desk. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull out my ratio, 7 to 5. Again, if it helps you to label crayons to pencils, absolutely do that. It's a great strategy. And what I'm going to do is match up the information I know. I know there's 28 crayons. So on my crayon side below, I'm going to write there's 28 of them. And what I'm trying to do is figure out this missing spot. I'm going to figure out these pencils. Well, with ratios, I want to make an equivalent ratio. And I do that with multiplication. So I'm going to figure out 7 times something is 28. Well, I'm pretty sure that's 4. And if I multiply one side of my ratio by 4, I have to do it to the other. What does that mean? It means I'm doing 5 times 4, and that's 20. So there are 20 pencils in Leo's desk. Last part, B says, after he adds more crayons and pencils, he has a total. Ooh, that's an important word. I'm going to box it. Total of 72 crayons and pencils. The ratio of the number of crayons and pencils is still the same. So we're still starting off with this ratio, 7 to 5. I find the fastest way to solve this problem is a 3-step process. Step 1 is adding the ratio together. So what does that mean? That means I'm going to do 7 plus 5. What is 7 plus 5? Well, it's 12. Step 2 is divide the total. So that means my total number of crayons and colored pencils, that's 72, and I'm going to divide it by 12. This one is a perfect division problem because 12 fits perfectly into 72 6 times, and I get no remainder. This 6 is what I'm going to use to multiply. So step 3 is multiply the ratio. So that means, I'm going to scroll because I need a little space. I'm going to take my original ratio and I'm going to make an equivalent ratio by multiplying it by 6. So I'm going to multiply both sides of the ratio by 6. 7 times 6 is 42. 5 times 6 is 30. Now in this question, it's asking for how many crayons are there. Order mattered. Crayons in our original ratio was the 7, and pencils in our original ratio was 5. So in our equivalent ratio, 42 are crayons and 30 are the pencils. So I only care about the 42. There are 42 crayons. And that is it. I highly recommend your students work through these questions. It's a great resource. And thanks.